Welcome back, and thank you for staying with the broadcast. A not-so-old wound has been opened up for the mother of a St. Lucian who was slain by a former police officer in the United States. Alison Jean dismissed the complaints of persons who admonished locals for either taking part in or venting about the recent killing of yet another black man by white police officers. She explained why, like her, so many others feel so strongly about the situation.
The mother of Bofam Jean, a St. Lucia national who was killed by police, Alison Jean, has come out to defend the uprisings being seen all over the United States and certain Caribbean islands.
The protest that I'm seeing, I believe it is justified because blacks have spoken out so many times. There were protests after Bofam's death in Dallas, in New York, in Atlanta, in Florida. But who listened? Since Bofam's death, there have been so many other young men and women killed at the hands of police. You had Jamel Robinson in Chicago. You had E.J. Bradford in Alabama. You had Tatiana Jefferson in Fort Worth, Texas. Then just this year, you have Breonna Taylor before George Floyd. Then you also had the white men who killed Ahmaud Arbery in Georgia. So when will it ever stop?
Jess says, while persons may think the issues of police brutality and racism only occur in the U.S. and do not apply to St. Lucia directly, that is not the case.
But for many of us, the United States is a hub for us. We have family there, we have friends there, we go there on business. Most of our students, our young children, because of the limited opportunities in the Caribbean, they travel to the United States to study. If I sit and say nothing, even if I am in St. Lucia, then I will be pushing my head in the sand like the proverbial ostrich and thinking that nothing will happen. I think it's everyone to raise their voice, to stand up and to speak out about what's happening in the United States.
She believes that incidents like this in the United States should be used as an example for St. Lucia to stand up for the injustices being done right here as well.
We also have to speak out about what's happening in St. Lucia because there is police brutality in St. Lucia, and there are the two latest cases. Kimberly Williams DeLeo, who was shot at her home. Up to now, we don't know anything about the case. It's getting cold. You have Arnold Joseph, who was shot on the 22nd of May last year. To date, we know that he was shot by police. There's been no accountability, no outcome of investigation.
Jean indicated that she has noticed a very disheartening trend in St. Lucia where families who are at the receiving end of injustices are left to rally and seek justice on their own rather than with the strength of a community. She says she is not one to see how the protests should be done. However, she believes that whatever form will get the police and those in authority to listen to the voices of the blacks, the oppressed, and the minority should be done. And St. Lucia should follow suit, using this as an example to stand up for the injustices being dealt with on the island. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I am Genevieve Gonzague.
Today, Tuesday, June 2nd, people around the world are showing solidarity with the Black Lives Matter movement by participating in a day-long blackout in response to the police killing of George Floyd and the killing of other black people by U.S. police. Locally, the engagement of St. Lucians has been evident with local social media feeds flooded with blackout posts. We spoke with some of these participants on why they chose to get involved.
It's been rife with emotions as people from all over the world are feeling the repercussions of a police officer's inhumane treatment of a black man named George Floyd. Celebrities, activists, and change makers from all industries are speaking up on social media, marking June 2nd, 2020 as Blackout Tuesday, a day to show unity against racial injustice and social discrimination. We asked local participants why they chose to be part of Blackout Tuesday. Here's what they had to say.
All right, it's quite simple, really. Several times on countless occasions we see black people do the same crimes as white people but get greater punishment. You see white people do infractions against black people and they get slapped on the wrist. So it's actually scary to think that just being black is an issue.
We're black and we're proud, and this needs to stop. So at the end of the day, whatever we have to do to get it to stop, we just need it to stop immediately.
Yeah, well, in all honesty, I decided to take part in Blackout Tuesday to show my support and publicly express solidarity in Black Lives Matter protests that have swept throughout America over the last couple of days after the murder of a black man. I'm just hoping that this is a catalyst to effect change and policy and to clean up the whole justice system, which is right now in turmoil.
Okay, I'm taking part because I believe in equality. I believe that people should not be judged on like the color of their skin, how rich they are, or how poor they are, what they have and what they don't have. Things like that like shouldn't matter, because like we're all human. At the end of the day, we're all human. We should be treated the same. And seeing what's happening like right now in the news, and well, it has always been happening, but like it's just really sad to see. And like, you know, any little change that people could do, like they should do it.
Okay, so the main reason why I'm taking part in the entire Blackout Tuesday kind of movement is essentially because I'm getting a bit frustrated and a little bit tired of seeing the injustice that's going on around the world. Like basically locally we don't really experience that too much because of the landscape here and the way things are, but in bigger places where there's more of a mix of races and skin colors and all of that, those places that discrimination is a lot stronger and it's a lot more prominent. And just the posting of the black image and the hashtags Black Lives Matter, Blackout Tuesday, that essentially is a symbol that shows what a lot of people are standing for right now.
I am participating in Blackout Tuesday because it is a stop to commercial activity so that we can focus on the bigger issue at hand. It is saying to those big companies and brands that you have a very large platform, a very big platform that you can use to try influence government policy and influence change in this world. A lot of these companies and brands are just deciding to post a simple hashtag, which is great, but we do know that most of them are using it as an accessory, and we want to be clear that our movement is not to be used as an accessory.
I choose to participate because the truth is this is not a fight for blacks against whites or simply Americans against cops or all what is being publicized by a lot of people right now. The truth is this is a fight for people against racism, and this is something that is experienced all around the world, and I think that it is time that we do something about it. It is not an isolated situation. And if we think that we are isolated or we are not a part of this or we are not affected by this, even living in the Caribbean, then of course we are also part of the problem.
The social media phenomenon grew out of a pledge by music and entertainment companies to halt their businesses and reconnect with their communities as violent protests roiled over major U.S. cities. The hashtag Blackout Tuesday is now trending on social media platforms, raking up posts in the millions. Jacques Wooding, Hot 7 News.
This past weekend saw the most widespread civil unrest in the USA since the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. in 1968. Our team has been paying close attention to this developing story to bring you the following roundup.
Even as demonstrations against anti-black violence have become tragically routine, the events of the past few days have stood out. They are the largest nationwide protests against the killing of a black man since the unrest that followed the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. on April 4, 1968. Then, just as now, an outpouring of grief and anger sent demonstrators into the streets in cities across the world, and mayors, police departments, and federal officials scrambled to prevent the upheaval from claiming lives and destroying property. President Donald Trump on Monday declared himself the president of law and order, and he said he would mobilize every available federal force, both civilian and military, as he vowed to put an immediate end to the protests that have swept the nation for days.
But we cannot allow the righteous cries and peaceful protesters to be drowned out by an angry mob. The biggest victims of the rioting are peace-loving citizens in our poorest communities. And as their president, I will fight to keep them safe. I will fight to protect you. I am your president of law and order and an ally of all peaceful protesters. But in recent days, our nation has been gripped by professional anarchists, violent mobs, arsonists, looters, criminals, rioters, Antifa, and others.
Those protesting against police brutality have been met with, at times, excessive force by authorities. 2 officers were fired over the weekend in Atlanta, Georgia, for pulling 2 black persons out of a car and throwing them onto the ground. Videos have shown police targeting angry but peaceful protesters with tear gas and mace. Journalists have also been targeted by police. Meanwhile, President Trump took to social media platform Twitter, releasing a slew of statements on the matter. Most popularly, he was quoted warning that looting will lead to shooting.
Today, I have strongly recommended to every governor to deploy the National Guard in sufficient numbers that we dominate the streets. Mayors and governors must establish an overwhelming law enforcement presence until the violence has been quelled. If a city or state refuses to take the actions that are necessary to defend the life and property of their residents, then I will deploy the United States military and quickly solve the problem for them.
While some governors, such as South Carolina's Henry McMaster, a Republican, praised Trump's calls for a crackdown, others took umbrage at the president's combative tone and questioned his authority to deploy federal troops into these states. This is a developing story, and updates will be provided as they become available. Jacques Wooding, Hot 7 News.
In other news, in response to the trade union's open letter issued to the Prime Minister on Friday, Prime Minister Alan Chastanet has indicated that the negotiations continue. He says the government has made its proposals. Now may be the time for the unions to make one of their own, but something has to give.
On Friday, the Trade Union Federation made it abundantly clear in their open letter to the Prime Minister that the public sector would not be accepting payments in the mixed modality of bonds and cash. Outside Parliament on Tuesday, Prime Minister Alan Chastanet indicated that something has to give, especially during such a difficult economic period, and it may be time for public sector workers to lay their ideas on the table.
The option is that they can offer me something. So, they asked us to make a proposal. We have. If, in fact, the unions don't believe that 3 months and 50% is the right way, then fine, offer something else. We've indicated the amount that we're trying to save is $50 million. We think that we've been fair. We've not cut anybody's salaries. What we were asked for was for a deferment, so that government will still honor its responsibility to the workers, but through a process of a bond. But I'm hoping that the unions will recognize and come to the table in good faith and offer us an alternative.
The Prime Minister says while public workers have agreed to defer the 1% salary increase indebted to them, that simply is not enough, as he has indicated the amount that the government is seeking to cut back on spending during the next few months. Prime Minister Chastanet has indicated that his administration is seeking to come to an amicable solution to the cash flow issue. He says his government is continuously seeking to find out why the sector is so apprehensive towards the proposal made to them.
Is it a situation where people don't believe that the revenue numbers have dropped? Is it a situation where persons don't believe that there is $700 million in bonds being turned over? Is it a point where people don't believe that not everybody is turning over their bonds?
He remains adamant that a hold on capital projects will not automatically mean there are monies to pay salaries. The PM remains resolute in his plea with the public sector to sacrifice for the greater good of the country. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I am Genevieve Gonzague.
You're watching the Hot 7 Nightly News. Stay with us, we'll be right back.